most valuable because the National Basketball Association, which will be taking the world by a storm tonight because you got both of the two premier MVP candidates playing not against each other but back-to-back on ESPN. Nikola Jokić, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the biggest question right now today is how do you define who should be the winner of the MVP in the NBA? Jokić has 3, Shai has none, and I'm not going to get into the little tricky debate of, define valuable. What does it mean? Pull up Webster's dictionary. Like that's been said and done. The real question is this. As we try and decipher this out, I'll ask this question that we can get into the talks of things here. Should the MVP go to the best player, or should it go to the player having the best season? That's the delineating factor this year and time again throughout the, especially in the NBA, because it's generally clear who the best player is, who the most elite, hardest to stop player is, but it's always hard to tell where you draw that line, and so I'm going to do, it's black and white today. Should the MVP go to the best player or the player having the best season? That's the answer that we're going to come to, and CCAT, given the history of that award, and also given the way that it seems like voters are leaning this year, it feels like best season is the way that things go. And if we're going best season, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are currently the second best team in the league record-wise and the first seed in the West, he should be the MVP. But damn it, is Jokić not ripping that thing up and making me put I feel like once a week I'm putting like $5 on Jokić for MVP odds. It's just, it shouldn't be that big of a gap.
Yeah, I feel like you're on this, and yeah, SGA is the favorite right now, and you're confused as to why. And we kind of had this same conversation, and you had this same spidey sense come NFL time, where Lamar Jackson was at minus 600 at a certain point when there was still a gauntlet of teams for for Lamar Jackson to go through. He aced all of those tests, and then just like that, snap your fingers, and it's minus 110 both sides for the MVP debate. So do you think that this MVP conversation, which we're going to open it up to, as you said, not just the NBA, is this an MLB, NBA, NFL, heck, why not NHL conversation, or is this just for the NBA in terms of best season, best player?
I think it's easier to dictate that in the NBA. In baseball, it feels so much more like you're able to just look at the stats and tell me who the best player was, right? Am I off based on that? It's not like I'm a big historian of that game, but when I look at the way that people judge baseball players, there's very easy statistics, especially if you're talking about people that are all batting. They're all pretty much doing the same thing offensively. There's very easy statistics for people to point out and say, yeah, that guy had a much better season than that guy, plus the wins.
And that was all simple until Shohei Ohtani showed up.
Well, that's different.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a unicorn.
Yeah.
So, but again, other than that, it is easier, right? You can say Trout has been the best player in the league for the past however many years, but you can also say in that same token, look at his numbers. And look at this guy's numbers. He didn't perform.
Sure.
So I'm on par?
Yeah.
All right, so in the NBA, I think the difference is if you are an elite level talent like Nikola Jokić, your numbers are always going to match up. Your numbers are always going to look historic and dominant, and they're always going to be worthy of you being in the MVP conversation or damn near the front runner like he is today. Here's the problem. For Jokić, because he has 3 of them bad boys, because he's won the MVP 3 times already, and this one will be his 4th in 5 years, there's a complex that hits voters, there's a complex that hits fans, and that complex is not fatigue, it's more so the normalization of like historic feats. Did you realize Nikola Jokić is averaging a career best 28.8 points per game this year? Did you realize he also is averaging a triple-double, actually? And if he finishes the year doing so, it'll be the first time he's done that in his career. And also the Nuggets, I know they're not the 1 seed like the Thunder, and they're definitely far back. They'll never catch them. They're likely going to have a home playoff game, or excuse me, a home court advantage in the first round at the very least in the playoffs, likely finishing either 3rd or 4th. I can't ignore the fact that Jokić has been that dominant. And Shai is not better than Jokić. The Thunder are having a better season than the Nuggets, but it just feels unfair right now. It feels unfair to have to pick between these two guys, and it's because we don't even know what the actual award stands for.
My bias is not liking how SGA achieves his goals, achieves his stat line that is getting the Thunder to where they are. I'm tired of the free throws. So that's why I am actually on the same boat with you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's for different reasons, but we're at the same result. When you watch both of these guys play basketball, like you mentioned, we're going to get to see back-to-back, not against each other, but back-to-back on national television tonight. I see Nikola Jokić, and I see the style of game that he does, and I see it as less, cheap. I see it as more gifted. I see it as more foreign, not because he is not from the United States of America, but foreign to the game of basketball until he arrived to the league.
So the issue with the people that try and troll Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the foul baiting, I guess is what you're saying, and him hunting for the whistle. The issue is the reason why Shai is so crafty and so able to draw fouls is because he is the most unguardable perimeter player in the league right now. Like, you can't have one without the other. There's a reason why insert DeAndre Hunter, wing for the Cavaliers, great player. There's a reason why he doesn't draw a lot of free throws. It's because he's not as much of a threat off the dribble. He's easier to stay in front of and contain. Shai is one of the shiftiest, most crafty when it comes to change of pace players. He's so good at getting to his spot and rising up and getting uncontested jumpers, even with the defender in front of him, that sometimes you almost kind of have to foul him. And then there are times where he'll get somebody in the air and draw the foul. Similar to what Jimmy Butler's done a long time in the Miami Heat and now for the Golden State Warriors. I still have to respect that because the dude is, 6'6". He's not able to just be 7 foot or 7'5" like Victor Wembanyama and just go over the top of people to be a brute force. You got to find ways to score.
But I also think then I'm going to add another criteria to your MVP.
Yeah.
Not best player, not mentioning a best season, but maybe best representation of what the NBA has to offer. Because sometimes it's a team, sometimes that's a player.
Yeah.
And I think that Nikola Jokić is probably the best example of that for a player nomination in that criteria, because I would rather watch that, show somebody basketball for the first time and show that this is the best guy at this right now than show SGA at the free throw line.
So most of SGA's highlights are not at the free throw line. Again,
but that's
I don't
highlights.
Have to keep. I don't
that's
have
watching
to keep
a full
going
game.
After this. You said what?
Well, I mean, then that's a flaw with the viewing the NBA. If
What?
it's the highlights that is going to win you the award, not watching
Well, his
a full
highlights
game.
would not be a free throw. His highlights wouldn't be a free throw. That's not to undercut the Shai argument would more so be just how great Jokić has been. Shai's season has been elite. He's about to be a scoring champion and likely can do so and have the best record in the league, which has rarely been done in the NBA, surprising.
That's sure. That's fantastic. But when we have someone who is also on par in productivity,
yes,
I think that there's an argument to be had where tie goes to the guy who produces at a more appealing method.
So here's the air in which Nikola Jokić, if he does close this out, and right now the Thunder excuse me, I have the wrong one up here. I was about to say this looks a little different than what I saw earlier. So the Nuggets right now are the 2 seed behind the Thunder. They're 11 games back. So they won't catch them for the 1 seed. It won't be close. The Thunder will finish with a better regular season record. The Nuggets are in danger of falling likely all the way down to 5, so their range of finishing is between 2 and 5. But most importantly, the number to lock in on here is 4 MVP trophies. That's what Jokić would have if he closes this year out with the Nuggets, holding that lofty award. And here's the other side of the issue for voters, for fans, and everyone alike. That is absolutely rarefied air to put a guy in there that also is, at least as of today, only going to have the one title. Wilt, LeBron, Jordan, Russell, Kareem. Are you willing to say that those players who I just listed off, which you know the greatness of, and obviously you know how their careers have gone and ended, are you willing to already thrust them into that category?
But that's kind of unfair, because now we're going to look at these things in decade-long blocks and not look at 2025.
Yeah.
Like, if in 2025, he was the most valuable player. That's all I have to say. I don't care if it we're adding on to that list, and by proxy, that means that he is greater than, if we're using that criteria, these NBA greats. It just so happens that he, in those seasons, the way the timeline matched up, LeBron was not at his peak. Kobe wasn't at his peak. He didn't play in the Jordan era. No. Nikola Jokić was the guy who was winning these regular season awards. I think that is not just putting Nikola Jokić as a top 5 NBA player of all time just because you're giving him an award that he did earn.
I believe that if Jokić or SGA wins it this year,